In this video, I want to show you how you can take a performance with the DJAA Master and take it from something that sounds like a virtual instrument to more of a realistic performance. For example, I've got this guitar part over here, I'm playing it over a loop and it sounds like this. So that part really doesn't sound that realistic. But now let me show you what steps you can take to really take this performance up to the next level. So first off, some general housekeeping. On the DJAA Master, what I found works really well is increasing this release time. So I'd say taking it to about 17 milliseconds is a good starting point. That just helps add extra release to the notes so they don't sound so artificial when they stop. Also, I'm using the double tracker feature to get more of a stereo enhancement on the instrument, and then this is going through into the 1111 that's also set up in stereo mode. Now I've just pulled back the preamp to about 3 on this just to have more clarity with the notes. Now, before getting into how to make the performance a bit more realistic, when you're recording in your MIDI notes, you can record it in either two ways. Either you can have a MIDI controller set up so you can play your notes, or you can have a MIDI event that you can go into and program in the parts. So you'll use your pencil tool in your DAW and you'll draw in notes. And depending on how long you extend a note is going to change the length of that note. And also a good thing to keep in mind is to have your snapping enabled. So as you record in a part, it's going to snap to the grid, depending on what you've got your quantize level set at. So if I set that to quarter notes, it's going to snap to the nearest quarter note. Now let's dive deeper into the MIDI editing. Generally, what I find really helps improve the performance is to make sure that your note lengths are a bit longer. So if I take these note lengths and extend them all out like this, just so it touches the next note, that really sounds a lot better. Or you can use a function in your DAW where you take the notes and you extend them out using a length feature, but it doesn't overlap them. So it's using a legato mode. So if I just do that, it's extended my notes all the way to the next note, but not overlapping them. Now this part over here, I'm just going to keep this as a reference so we can jump back and hear the difference from what we've done to this part, so you can hear how it goes from quite an artificial sounding performance to a more realistic performance. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are the key switching. So if you look at this instrument, I'm just going to scroll over here, you've got your articulations that are available in the instrument. And next to each articulation, you see the pitch that will change the key switching for that articulation. Currently, the default value will be the master articulation, and this is a performance patch that's been built up that includes your sustains, your chugs, it's got some dead mutes, and then some pinch harmonic bends as well. And these are all set to different velocity layers. So you've got your dead mutes all the way at the bottom, then you've got your chugs, and there are 4 different velocity layers of the chugs. This goes into the sustains with 4 levels of velocity as well, and then finally at the top, you've got your pinch harmonics. Now, this is a great articulation to use just to get some ideas down, but when you really want to start enhancing your performance to make it sound more realistic, I definitely suggest moving over onto these types of articulations here because you're just going to have more range with the velocity to have more detail in the performance. So what I want to do is I want to select all these notes and I want to go to my instrument and switch it to the sustain. So I'm not using the master performance anymore. But what if I want to take some notes and I want to make them some chugs? Well, then you need to use some key switching. So just taking a look over here, the sustains are on B-1 and the chugs are on D0. So what I need to do is place a MIDI note in those pitches to switch the articulation. So I want these to be sustains and these to be chugs. So I can drag this down to B-1. So I'm just copying a MIDI note there to B-1. Then these are chugs at a D0. This I want to be a sustain as well. So if I just change this quantize back to 16ths, I'm going to have a finer grid so I can edit these. So that'll be there. This will be a sustain as well. This will be a sustain as well over here. So I'll just copy that across, or I can just leave it. These will be chugs. This will be a sustain. This will be chugs over there. Sustain as well. So that will go back to sustain. This I want to be a chug as well. Sustain, a chug, and sustain. So basically we've got these MIDI notes that are going to be switching the articulations. And just to demonstrate this, I'm just going to first just shorten these notes just to make it look a bit more cleaner. And then I'm going to open up this instrument. So let's keep an eye here. So these are the key switching of the articulations, and you'll see it switching over here. I'll just solo the instrument. Okay, so there you go. That is how to incorporate key switching into your performance. Now, what I like to do is just slightly take these key switching notes and move them just before the MIDI note that it needs to change. So I'm going to just extend this MIDI part, grab all of these, and just move them ever so slightly just before, so it picks up that note before it changes. Okay, so now we've got this performance. Now, it's still not sounding that great, and that's just because if you just look at our velocity for these notes, they're all using the same velocities. Now, if you want to get some more realism into your performance, then you definitely need to start tweaking these velocities. What I want is I want the chugs to be a slightly louder velocity. So I'm just going to select all of those, and I'm going to drag them up. And all the sustains, I'm going to take them and pull them down a bit. And we can even add some further humanization by randomizing these velocities. So take a look in your DAW if there's some sort of randomized feature. Most of them have this. So I'm going to go and select all these notes, go into my humanize function, and here I can actually add some randomization to the velocity range and even the note length. So I've just set a very small value here and just keep an eye over here as I tweak this. So that did a slight tweak. I could go back in and do even further. So each time I do it, it's going to change some of the performance. And if you take a look, everything is not sitting exactly on the grid. Things are being moved off. So it's a great way of just adding some more humanization to your performance. So already that is sounding a lot better. For example, if I had to go over here and play back before, so we've really come a very long way with some articulation switching, some velocity changing, and even some slight start positions of the notes changing. Now, let's talk about doing some chords. So I'm going to take these notes and make them into a power chord. So if you look here, I'm using G. Now, if you go from G up to a power chord, you go up 7 steps, and that's going to give you a power chord. So I can select all these notes and just move them up 7 steps. So now we're going to have some power chords. So that's an easy way of taking some single notes and converting them into power chords. Also, I can select these notes, the higher notes, and randomize them as well. So I'm going to take those and do some humanizing or randomizing. So what we got are slightly different velocities for these notes and these as well. So if I include these with the drums now, we got this. And another neat trick that you can do that works really well, and especially in this instrument because we've got quite a low register, is to take some of these notes, these low register ones. I'm just holding down Shift while I select these and shifting them down a whole octave. So giving you a nice octave effect there as well. Or even better yet, if you just want these lower notes, I'm just going to remove these. And now we just got the low notes. Maybe tweaking these velocities on these notes over here. So just comparing before, this is what we had in the beginning. And then taking our notes, making some chords out of them, changing the velocities, adding in some key switching for articulation changes, and now we have this. And obviously, we got all these other types of articulations as well that you can really start digging into and exploring with. For example, let's say I want to do some pinch harmonic bends. I can just drag this out over here, and that's on A0. So let's say I want these notes over here to be some pinch harmonic bends, but there are some sustains over here. So I'm just going to take these over here, just copy them here so that we got our sustains. Then I'm going to take these that relate to these three notes over here and drag them up to A0. So now we got some pinch harmonic bends on these notes. And I could, for example, just remove these notes. So I only have the pinch bends on these two notes, and I can actually open up and you can see how this is performing now as an instrument. So there you go, that is how to make the most of the DJAA Master, taking you through the beginning steps all the way through on how you can improve your performance to make them sound more real.